report immediately. We still have some time.
Yeah, I do think Dr. Kelleher will be in person
Yeah.
and Shane and Robert will be, I think, virtually, so they should be popping on any second.
Yeah, we won't start until we, for sure we have everyone here. That's fine.
Oh, are you going to?
There's Shane.
Oh. That's always fixed one.
You
got
are
it down to
like,
a science.
you've got it down to like, you're never more than 30 seconds early, but you're never late.
I'm trying to get out of that pattern. I mean, it's good I'm not,
No, it's
but I gotta
efficient.
get out of that.
Efficient.
No time to spare.
I just sent yours.
Okay. We have a couple ready for today as well.
Okay. Have you seen Robert by chance?
No, not in the chat at all.
Let me text him real quick.
Be different on your computer.
Yeah, she's like email and the Zoom.
We can, I mean, if you're not waiting for anybody, Austin, we can go ahead. I mean, he should be coming. He told me, I talked to him earlier today, so he may just be running a couple minutes late, but we can go ahead and get started.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that sounds good to us. We're recording, so we're ready.
We're happy to go first, or if you want to go first, that's fine too.
I see just the one from you guys.
Yeah.
For Article 9, so, we also had Article 9 prepped
Oh.
for us today for discussion, because we were pretty close on that. So.
Yeah, we were. I mean, it's fine. I mean, if you guys would rather go, we tried it, because last time we just really had a good discussion about it,
Mhm.
and I think that, Hannah and even and the rest of the team laid out kind of what you guys were expecting, and we thought the discussion was productive, and so what we had attempted to do was get away from the use of the word ethical, because that's really what we were spending a lot of time talking about, and instead of using that word, anchor the intent in pre-existing references and regulations that already apply. Therefore, we're not really adding anything. We're just making a specific reference to other places in which that language applies, hopefully in a way that you all find acceptable. So, but if you'd rather present yours instead, I mean, because we probably attacked it in a different way, so it's fine, you know, we can even do both and then see which one we like better if you want. We are really close.
Yeah, I mean, I can explain just
Sure.
visually ours. Ours
ahead.
is, I think where we were at last time, except we've just removed the word ethical.
Yeah, yeah.
Again. That's kind of where we thought a lot about, why, and making sure we came today saying, you know, this is why we're at this point where we think removing the word ethical is the best case scenario. So let me just get down to it here. So, here's kind of we wrote a short paragraph. This is a kind of our introduction. So for GAU, the term standards of the particular academic discipline is a statement which broadly includes requirements to meet the expectations of peer review. Broadly, this would include ethics, rigor, originality, proper citation, etc. For us to be able to fully excel, the university must not unreasonably inhibit any GA in their endeavor to explore appropriate avenues of scholarship within the guidelines provided by our supervisors and the standards of the field. By narrowing in on ethical standards, it raises the questions of whether UF could infringe on our ability in those other dimensions. And so that's why we kind of think the word ethical is necessary in that statement.
You mean
And
unnecessary.
what?
You mean unnecessary.
Unnecessary,
Yeah.
yeah, sorry, my apologies.
No, that's okay.
I think, I don't want to rehash this for 20 minutes or anything like that. I think, I can send you over our copy and I
No,
can send you that blurb again.
It's a
but-
valid point.
Yeah.
I think we understand, and I think you guys did a good job last time too, sort of laying out what does that mean? I think it was a valid question. Look, how do you interpret that? When are we going to apply it? You know, what's the standard? And I think that's really good. But we took that feedback, and I think what we attempted to do instead is say, look, okay, we acknowledge that. So what we attempted to do, and as I said we were going to do, is we attempted to look for references that already exist and we believe already apply, and just refer to them without necessarily adding any additional meaning.
Mhm.
So that was our approach.
Right.
So if you'll see down in line 37, what we've said is graduate assistants must abide by relevant statutes and regulations and all research work, including UF Regulation 10101 and Chapter 112 of the Florida statutes. And we invite you to take a look at it, but both of those things already apply anyway.
Yeah,
So we don't think that it necessarily adds any additional restriction. It doesn't add any additional, you know, confinement or anything else to the pursuit of the other language.
Mhm.
But it does allow us an opportunity to, you know, point and remind folks that, look, these other things apply, but without making them apply in a way that they didn't. This contract language would not make them apply in any way that they wouldn't already apply. It just serves as a reference. to
so
that.
yeah, it doesn't systematically change any of the behavior or anything or
Nope.
how we act. It would just make it very clear, like, these are the things we're going to be looking at.
Exactly, and it's restricted by language that we're not bargaining, but we're referring to it in such a way that, I mean, UF Regulation 10101 applies.
Mhm.
And Chapter 112 of the Florida statutes apply, so by referring to it, we're able to include only what's supposed to be applying. We're not, because your point, yeah, and like I said, I think you did a good job again. Which ethical standards are you gonna be applying? You know, they're
Right.
different by discipline, whereas these already apply equally to everyone as written. So that was what we attempted to do.
Yeah, and I appreciate you guys doing the work and come back. Obviously, we're gonna review those
Sure.
and making sure
By all
that
means,
we're agreeing
yeah.
to something there, but I think we're really close on this. I
Yeah.
think, you know, we're pretty close.
good.
So let me stop sharing my screen really quick here. And we have a couple for you as well. Let me get those sent over.
Oh, by the way, I didn't hand them out. Yeah, I don't know if you guys wanted paper copies, but.
I
forgot a
think
couple.
they're perfect. I forgot to print the articles
That's
from
okay.
us today, so,
I mean, it's just that one, I mean, we're really down to just that one little spot. I think the
Yeah.
rest of it we're pretty good on.
okay, I'll get those sent to you. Let me pull up. We're gonna, I guess, we need to start with the discussion on Article 10.
Okay,
I was not here last week and, yeah, I watched part of it over Zoom, but I was busy doing other things. So I would love to hear, you know, directly from you, where the University of Florida stands as far as Article 10 goes.
I mean, I don't know how many more ways I can say this. We've given you our last best final on Article 10. I don't know how else you want me to give information. I don't know what other information is applicable. I don't know how many more times you want to have the same conversation.
So, just to paraphrase, you're not giving any more proposals on Article ten.
We did this last time, Eva.
Mhm.
You're not, I'm not gonna, I gave you my statement on Article 10. You can try to modify it, you can try to augment it. I've given you the statement. That's the statement.
Basically, you're not willing to bargain the mandatory.
No, that's what you're doing again. That's, you're putting words in my mouth. I didn't say that.
Well, I mean, you are quite literally saying that you
That's-
are not going to. be
You're welcome
engaging
to
with this
interpret
topic.
it.
You're not gonna be engaging on this topic
No,
any further?
I didn't say that.
Well, I mean, you literally just said how many more times you wanna talk about this, Ava? I've already told you that I don't, that's the final.
That's
offer.
not what I said. What I said is, how many more times do you want me to give you the same official position? That's different than how many more times you want to talk. Look, if you want to have semantic arguments, we could have semantic arguments.
You're the one who's having. a semantic
Okay,
argument. I
that's
mean,
fine.
I think if you were actually coming to the table to bargain, then you would be at the very least engaging with what's being said, the concerns that are being raised.
I think if we're still asking these questions, obviously that we're not satisfied with the answer. And I wanna kind of put these things into context and where we're coming from. I mean, we've been obviously bargaining this a long time. No one's gonna argue that.
Right.
For Article 10 specifically, we started bargaining, I think, in late
Almost
February,
exactly a year.
almost exactly a year ago.
Yeah.
And I want to say that's a long time, but when you look at the proposals themselves, it's not. University of Florida waited 6 months to give us our first counter proposal on Article 6. They're waiting until mid-August. And you guys have only given counter proposals on 3 separate bargaining sessions. Now, one of those sessions, you gave a couple of different ones and you said, here are some avenues. But we don't believe, 3 options for proposals is sufficient when it comes to something as important as stipend. Some things we've said time and time again that it is of paramount importance to us. Something we've had GAs come in and discuss their financial struggles time and time again. No one is content with saying we are done. And maybe the University of Florida is saying, we're not going to change any numbers and that's where it is, but we're not done with that conversation. And I think that it is disrespectful to say we are with that few number of proposals. I know we've had this discussion. I'm gonna say it again, to not give us proposals when we are so far apart on something that is paramount to us, something we have said is of vital importance to us and all GAs. It's disrespectful to us at this bargaining table who put in the work and bring, we think, valid counter proposals for every article as often as we can. It's disrespectful to the GAs who come and, talk about their financial situation, are very open with their struggles that they're having, and to say, there is no solution from the other side of the table. And it's disrespectful to all the GAs, whether they're here or not. They deserve to be paid more than they are. They deserve to be paid more than University of Florida has been willing to offer. And so no, we're not done with the conversation. I mean, you guys come to the table each week. That's true. You bring articles, but not on Article 10, not in those things that matter, not where we need to see movement, even as we've made concession after concession on these things. And to top it all off, I mean, the reason that we keep pushing this so hard is, not only do GAs deserve to be paid more, but we are the authority to bargain for those raises.
Mhm.
Now, you guys legally were allowed to give, you may believe you're legally allowed to give those raises through 10.5. You're allowed to give the raises to all GAs, but that doesn't change the fact that we view that as an abuse of their existing contract. That's not the intent of 10.5, is to give everyone a raise behind the negotiation process. That's a waiver we have given to the University of Florida to allow different units to remain competitive, to give increasing raises, to give people raises when they deserve them, to give them to all GAs, implementing a proposal that you gave 6 months ago, not changing the proposal since then, and then saying, we're done, we've implemented the raise. That's not bargaining. That's not negotiating. That is saying, this is our position, we're gonna implement it, and then we are done talking. And that's how we view it. You may view it differently, and I'm happy to have that conversation when I'm done, but that is, it's disrespectful. And it's not, I'm not mad at your team for doing this behavior. Obviously, you guys have a job and you are doing your job, but this tells GAs, very directly that the Board of Trustees does not want fair wages for GAs. They do not want to pay them a living wage. They don't believe in paying GAs the fair wage that they deserve. They don't want to solve the issues that are plaguing their employees. They say they want to listen to these issues and hide behind a smaller number and not actually come to the table with something where we can make progress. And so it's disrespectful. And I wasn't here last week and I was very disappointed to hear you guys say that you didn't plan on bringing a proposal in the future. Not that you were ruling it out, but you didn't plan on doing it. I think that is, to disrespectful to all the work that everyone's done on this side of the table and what GAs do for this university. We have a proposal for Article 10 today. You know, we are not content to let this conversation die. You guys say you were done having this conversation. We're not. We think there is much more conversation to have, and not just conversation where we are digging in our heels, conversation where we make significant progress towards finding something that both sides can agree on, because that's what we come to the table to do every week. So you can say what you need to say if you need to say something. We do have an Article 10 to propose, and I think it's important that we listen to this, and that you guys can commit to coming back to the table with something in the future, because not bringing anything is not going to fly, you know?
I mean, I appreciate the position that, I appreciate what you said, Austin, but I've attempted to say this multiple times before. Just because one side establishes a position that's so significantly far away from current contract language does not compel the other side to continue to compromise towards that position, just because that's what the other side has marked out. And I've attempted to explain that before, and I appreciate that you have a difference of opinion. But on any topic, salaries, wages, you know, stipends, whatever, just because one side wants a massive deviation from current contract language does not compel the other side to, by definition, move any closer to that position. It doesn't. And I appreciate that we have a fundamental difference of opinion on that. And I know that before you had said, look, we're going to contact our attorneys and we're going to contact our staffers. And I had said, by all means, I invite you to do that. Please do. But again, okay, so please, and continue. I mean, they're welcome to come. You're welcome to invite them or whatever.
Can I say that University of Florida should be compelled to respond to us with a counter on stipends because of the material need of your employees? That's what you should be compelled by, right? You should be compelled to respond to what GAs need, which is what we're telling you. And again, like I said before, if there is a massive discrepancy between current contract language and our proposal that is based on actual material needs, we always root our proposals on material needs. If there is such a huge discrepancy as you're pointing out, then it is your fault. It is your fault.
Okay.
And you should, yes, it is. What else? What else is it? If there is that massive discrepancy between material needs and what is current contract language, it's not our fault, because we always try to like.
And there was a point where it was close to meeting material needs, like 7-8 years ago.
Yeah, 7-8 years ago, we were very close to what
It's
living
not
wage
quite
is for the
that.
county, and the University of Florida has not, you know, deemed it worthy to continue paying GAs close to a living wage, and we continue to suffer more and more each year. The University of Florida wants to remain a top school. We want them to remain a top school. We want GAs to be able to come here for decades to come and say, I'm happy to contribute to something because I know they respect me and they're giving back to me. GAs do not feel that right now. They feel constantly disrespected. They feel overworked, and none of the proposals you guys have given us are helping us solve those issues, are helping us go towards a university that remains fantastic for everyone involved for the future to come. You know, it is an issue that has been growing worse for years and years, and maybe the position of the University of Florida is it is not their responsibility to solve those issues. You know, it's not their responsibility to make GAs feel respected. But they're your employees. They deserve to be paid. They are people. They deserve to be able to pay rent. And this is just disrespectful. Yes, our proposals are significant deviations from the current contract because the current contract doesn't work. It does not pay GAs what they deserve, and it doesn't pay GAs what they deserve because we've had years and years of not enough wage growth to signify how much rent has grown. The University of Florida just recently announced that they were going to raise the rents for grad housing, completely eliminating any benefit grads would get from the raise that the University of Florida decided to give everyone. Those people are making the same amount. They're going to be stuck making the same amount, except everything else is also growing more expensive, and they're going to find it even harder to survive in this university. GAs are not going to continue to come to this university and choose the University of Florida if, you know, the University of Florida doesn't have their back.
Can I also say that? Yes, hold on one second, Hannah. I want to point out that University of Florida has massive amounts of money to their disposal. I mean, overall, Ben Sass increased the president's office spending by $17.3 million, of which expenses were $169,755 on a holiday party where they spend $285 per guest. $6.4 million on a consulting contract that had no apparent benefits to University of Florida. $335,000, well, over $335,000 on private flights for the president, of which over 200,000 were unapproved before takeoff. SAS also hired previous colleagues and friends of colleagues and paid them way above the market rate. And the excess ranged from $28,700 to $268,700. Now, $28,700, the excess, the minimum excess of those contracts is more than the current minimum rates for graduate assistants. And you're spending so much money on the salaries of a few people while graduate assistants cannot afford to live in Gainesville, cannot afford to live where they work, cannot afford groceries, cannot afford healthcare, cannot afford childcare. And you come to the table and you're like, I'm not interested. We're not interested in giving you any other offers. Like, that is wholly disrespectful, as Austin has said. It's wholly unethical on the part of you as an employer to not give a shit about your workers and your workers' well-being.
Just to like summarize and add up, I understand that the SAS administration is over and the university is moving in a different direction, but I really hope that we take these numbers and appreciate them for what they are. And it's proof that the university has money to spend and it should be used on their employees and the graduate assistants that they can afford to live and pay rent and do what they need to do the great work that keeps us going and hopefully get back to top 5 status.
Hannah, did you have something you wanted to say?
Oh,
You're
you're
muted.
muted.
I lowered my hand and I didn't unmute myself. Sorry. We've moved a little bit past it, but I just can't help but feeling that the argument that you're making, Patrick, is trying to distract us away from the real situation. I think the argument that our numbers are coming out of nowhere and that we're too far away from CCL is simply a distraction away from UF not bringing proposals. And we can talk more about that next time I'm in person, but I couldn't help sitting here and hearing you over the computer and thinking, I feel like we're pointing to an issue that's not a real issue right now. And like, we need to keep working together on this to find something. And UF only bringing 3 proposals is the issue that we're trying to point out. Like, it's not the distinction between us and CCL that we're talking about right now.
I think it's also important, I mean, as Cass said, you know, we've moved past the SAS administration, but I think those numbers are vital and it tells us what the University of Florida is willing to spend money on. And obviously there are different situations with that, but if we look at our latest proposal and the numbers we run, our latest estimate for how much it costs is around $50 million. And that's not a small amount of money, but that's 3 times what the president's office spent in excess during that 1 year. Right, so we have to go to our GAs and say, you know, there are 4,000 of you here, but the University of Florida would rather pay for someone like Ben Sasse to have a year of excess spending than give $1,500 of you equivalent amount of money. You know, a third of that.
In addition to $1 million per year for 4 years for severance, to which he's not even like entitled per contract. So this is something that the BOT just agreed to give him. For what? For spending millions of dollars in excess?
I mean, there's a whole lot of stuff that and you're welcome to share whatever. And there's a whole bunch of stuff that you guys are sharing. I have no interest in commenting on, nor is it something that we're going to be commenting on. I mean, I appreciate you can share whatever context you'd like, but a lot of those points, Eva, we have no interest in commenting on.
Okay. It's for context for our audience,
It's fine.
For context for you, for context for everyone, you know?
Yeah. And so, yeah, we do have an Article 10 we're going to present to you today.
Okay.
Can I
so-
just say one more thing?
Of course.
Yeah, just reiterate,
Mhm.
like summarize what has been said and leaving out the stuff that you cannot comment on. I mean, essentially, the reason why, the proposals are different from CCL is because we are pointing to objective facts, like a living wage. That was the first proposal. Every proposal since then has been less than a living wage. So we've shown that we're willing to soften our position, even though that is based on material needs. The second set of proposals has been based on what US own requirements are for what an international student needs to make in order to be a graduate student at UF. That's again, an objective fact that we can point to. It's a standard that's set by the university itself. So these are not coming out of nowhere. We didn't just like one day think, okay, let's just make a proposal that's totally different from CCL. These are objective facts that we're pointing to. And you're just not willing to engage with that. And yeah, I mean,
No,
that's plainly obvious.
Okay, so I mean, you can say as many times as you want, Sikander, that we are not willing to engage it. I just don't think there's any point in continuing to talk about the fact that we disagree and how you arrive at your calculations. The GAU has made it clear, they've come so close to saying it without saying it. The official practical position of GAU appears to be that you interpret the actual academic time as time that you determine is a component of how you determine your living wage calculation. And we have talked about this for yes, it absolutely is. No, so you're willing to redo a proposal based only on not based on academic time? Because you actually had one of your people.
We don't
that you-
refer to academic time ever in the stipends.
No, I understand that, but how many hours is your living wage calculated on? You had we've seen the same proposal
Yes, we know
basically
what
4
your
times.
point is, that
Yeah.
we're not full-time workers.
Right.
That means we don't deserve a full-time living wage. Right.
I'm saying there's a disconnect between what you're asserting our obligation is to.
You're saying we should make.
Okay, I won't finish my point. You go ahead and say whatever you're gonna say.
I disagree with the conjunction that we aren't full-time workers. We're 0.5 FTE. That is full-time for international GAs. That is full-time for what people are legally allowed to work at the University of Florida. And when we have international GAs coming in on visas, and the University of Florida says you have to make X amount of money to be considered, to keep your position, to have the joy of working for us, you have to make this much money to be considered fully funded. And then you will not pay GAs and commit to paying GAs that much money, knowing that they can only work 0.5, that's where the disconnect is. The disconnect is, they have a maximum number of hours, they need this much money to survive. The University of Florida has put that point out, and you will not pay them that amount of money to survive. You
Yeah,
are
so-
setting these GAs up for failure.
So we could, if you wanna, we can have a conversation about what the way that you just applied the international standard GA. I do not believe there is anywhere that says you have to pay a international GA a certain amount of money. They have to secure a certain amount of funding. That's different than the university is obligated to pay them a certain amount of money.
Yeah, but they're coming to us to work for the University of Florida. They are coming here. These international GAs who are working for the University of Florida because they believe that they can do great research while they're here, they can do great teaching, they can get a higher degree. They're coming here and you are saying, we will pay you $17,000, but you actually need $27,000 to be considered full-time because that's how expensive it is to live here. That's where our gap lies. That's why there's such a significant deviation.
I appreciate that, Austin, but I don't think this was some case in which they didn't know until they decided to take the position. It wasn't like they didn't know what they were going to be paid until after they committed to coming here. That's not how it works.
Right, as long as they know that they're gonna be in debt for the several years that they're working, I think that's enough, I think that's fine.
Well, that's how considering an employment offer works. You consider it and then you decide whether or not you want to do it.
Yo, I think we should present the proposal.
We should present the proposal. Do we have like 30 seconds to give till this is going in?
We have 30 seconds, of course.
So
Can you come in here so Alec can like see you? Yeah, if you can stand behind Austin, that'd be.
Yeah, the hammer and mic is here, so.
So I guess a couple of things. One is, you mentioned about how I think somebody mentioned that over the years, the stipends haven't grown according to, cost of living.
Mhm.
I came last year, a colleague of mine came this year. Both of us, for some reason, have the same stipend, even though generally it would increase over year because cost of living increases year over year. And they didn't get the raise because they're a first year, and so they weren't eligible for the raise, So one that, and they will forever be less than what I get, even though they came a year after, and even though they'll stay here for longer and they'll have to pay a higher cost of living for longer than I would. One that, and the other thing is, sure, I agree that I took on an employment offer based on what I was given, right, at the start, I'm sure I will make do with what I have, but then the cost of living does increase year over year. So you're saying that, okay, you're supposed to now for at least the 5 years or however long you're going to be here, make do with whatever you're getting, at the start of your at the start when it came. So in 2023, I'm supposed to get whatever money I'm supposed to get, but in 2027 or 2028, I'm getting pennies more than that. But I'm supposed to, and the cost of living increase is much higher than that. I'm supposed to make do with it because you gave me an offer and I decided to come here.
I don't think that's what I said. What
I think that is.
no, it's
Thank you for speaking.
not what I said,
Thank you, appreciate it.
because we do have an obligation to bargain reopeners every year. And we haven't brought an offer to the table of $0. I mean, you can keep saying that that's what we did.
But that would be the closest thing to a contract, Patrick.
Are we gonna be smart or are we gonna bargain? I mean, do we?
I don't know, are you gonna bargain? Like,
Let's go to our,
Sorry, it's so
let's go to
very
proposal here. I
frustrating.
think, you don't bring a contract that is $0. It is a raise from what the current contract is. After the cost of inflation, it's paid less than where we are in 2017. So GAs are being paid less after the cost of inflation year over year. So it may be monetarily, it's more than zero, but when it comes to buying things and paying rent, it is less than zero.
Do you wanna share the proposal?
Yeah, let's go through our proposal real quick. And let me make this a little bit bigger for everyone. And this should be in your email. I sent it,
Yeah.
sent it over. So we're gonna start with the minimum stipend. We have made a deviation from where we were before. Our previous offer for a 9-month GA was 28,000, and we've lowered that to 26,207. We've done this because while previously our previous proposal was linked to the amount that the University of Florida knows someone needs to be here to live on a J1 visa, we've changed it to an F1 visa. Changed it to a different visa that has slightly lower requirements for full-time or to be fully funded, excuse me. And so we've matched that number. We continue to say, and we continue to know that GAs coming here for 9 months, if they're being told they need X amount of funding, deserve to know that they're going to be paid that amount. If the University of Florida can say, not only do we want you to come here and you need to be fully funded, but we can say that you will be fully funded. So that is the number we are at. We have the increases to the minimum stipend year over year. We need it to match. At the very least, what the University of Florida says, someone on an F1 visa needs to be fully funded. That's, maybe not directly tied to inflation or anything like that, but that is a number that the University of Florida puts out each year about what people need. And we think that's a good benchmark. It's not perfect, but it's good to say, hey, this is what is necessary. In addition, we've combined a couple of sections here. We got rid of the definition of fees, and we've gotten rid of fee relief lower down, and we've put fee relief up here. And it has been expanded to include every fee. That is in excess of, $1,200 a year per GA, depending on credits. 1,200 is max. Most will save probably $900. But this stops GAs from having surprise bills in the middle of the semester of $500, which takes away an entire paycheck, especially when they're struggling to pay rent. This ensures that GAs are not surprised by those things, and they can continue to, pay their bills as necessary. Further down, we continue to have the merit raises. We did not make any movement on the merit raises at all. That's the same numbers we came to before. And then the biggest thing down here was now 10.6. Previously, we had a waiver in there saying that the University of Florida could provide salary increases beyond what is specified above. And we have changed this. I'll be real, this is a massive overhaul that took a lot of time for us to try to put together to make sure that we were putting on paper what we mean. And I'm pretty happy with it. I think it is fair. It makes sure that the maximum paid GA cannot be paid more than 1.5 times the minimum stipend. It makes sure that no changes can occur during negotiations of the article, except as both sides approve. And it says all salary right increases must be the outcome of negotiations. So it stops the University of Florida from going behind our back and raising the entire unit thing and going behind the spirit of bargaining. And we think that's fair. You know, that is a waiver that we gave the University of Florida. It's something that, you know, in many ways is a gift.
You can
And-
no longer be interested in.
And, you know, when you give a child a gift and they throw it at the wall, you take the gift away and change it. So this is our idea of wrapping it in bubble wrap and making sure that we are not abused in that way again. And we think that's a fair thing. We could have taken it away entirely, and that's what we considered for a while, but we thought this was the best for the university, which is our priority every time that we do this, for the university and for GAs.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I'm gonna say is, I want to be on record as saying, you know, that this is language that you all previously ratified. So you're welcome to try to characterize it as abuse as much as you want. This isn't university language. This is shared language that is in our contract between GAU and the university. So you can say that it's our language or that you feel abused by it. Earlier, you had said it was intended to allow departmental differentials. There is nothing in there whatsoever about any contemplation of departmental differentials. It's very plain language that says nothing contained herein shall prevent the university or its units from providing salary increases beyond the increases specified above. I appreciate Sikander, you're no longer interested in it. We're just as interested in not getting rid of it. So I can tell you emphatically, we don't need to caucus about whether or not we're going to accept that going away. I can tell you emphatically, we're not interested in giving up that language. So that's fine. If that becomes a new component of your proposal, that's an absolute have to have. I don't see us coming to terms on that particular issue.
Well, Patrick, it's obviously we ratified it, but you're kind of exploiting a loophole in the language.
How?
Well, it's not lost upon anyone on this side of the table that what you've done is obviously circumvented negotiations, right? Taking a unilateral decision and then saying that that is your final offer. And that you're really not interested in bringing any other proposals other than what you have already unilaterally decided to do. So that is not a negotiation. And what we're saying is, yeah, of course, you are within your rights to do that, unfortunately, because of the language that we previously agreed to. And we are making a proposal to close that loophole.
Okay.
And that is our right.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, and it is your obligation to, again, bargain on this topic.
But I'm not obligated to
To agree
accept
to
or
any-
compromise.
I agree.
You
I agree.
keep saying that we're obligated to agree with what you say.
No,
We're
I'm
not.
We did not say that.
I completely,
Yeah.
you are allowed to drive a hard bargain, as are we.
Yes,
Yeah,
sure.
but in order for us to reach an agreement, right, we have to understand each other's positions and soften those positions. And we have repeatedly shown that we are willing to soften them. You have not only not willing to show that, you have essentially implemented what your proposal is and are saying that you don't wanna talk about it. So this is our attempt to close that loop.
Okay.
Yep, this is a waiver that we gave you, and, you know, we are no longer interested in keeping the waiver as it is, because it's something that obviously the University of Florida can't be trusted having in our contract.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I just wanted to add in, this conversation could have looked very different. There's no situation in which UFGAU is not going to accept a raise or say anything against that. So I think that saying on record that like this conversation could have been very, very different had the discussion have been softened, or if we discussed not having if the university did not want to desire to have back pay and they wanted to make sure that we had like a smaller raise before, and then we continued to negotiate and try to meet in the middle and discuss what we wanted to do, and we would have continually softened our position over time and maybe gotten to something later, that would have been a very different conversation than what we're having now. I understand that it is likely very very like difficult. I don't know how administrative like things work or how budgetary processes might be. I understand that it may be more helpful for you guys to not have to do retroactive raises. I completely understand that. And I think that it'd be really great to have a genuine, productive conversation about this article, because it is a mandatory subject of bargaining.
All right.
Any other questions or
I don't
comments
know.
on
Do
that?
you have any questions? Shane or Robert or Judy, any questions?
No.
I mean, if the next proposal is even October 1st, 2025, that would still change the subject considerably, and we may be able to get some different motion on that.
Love share on that. We'll move on to our next proposal here. This one, Our next few should be fairly short here. This is just Article 8, as we've discussed it before.
Mhm.
I will share my screen here. Once again, zoom in for everyone. So we've had a lot of discussions with different GAs about what they prefer when it comes to their paid leave.
Mhm.
And it's was pretty much unanimous for every GA we polled that they would rather keep the word sibling. And if that means that we keep 8 weeks every 12 months, then they are happy with that exchange. So that is where we are. That is our position. This should not reflect any changes other than those things. We also change obviously the 8 weeks down here to 8 weeks. But we are not interested in getting rid of the word sibling
Okay.
within that definition.
I was able to get the data. Is that of any interest to you or doesn't matter?
We would still love to have the data,
Okay,
yeah.
so in the last 12 months, I worked with the leave team. They were able to pull the data. They had to look at every individual application because it's not something that's checked.
Mhm.
There were 59 graduate assistants that availed themselves of approved leave under this provision. 0 of them were for siblings.
Mhm.
So, like I said, I appreciate what you said. That's fine. Just giving you the data for context. I told you I was gonna get it, so I got it.
Yeah, and we appreciate you doing that. A lot of GAs we polled obviously have not taken paid leave, and they said even if, though they haven't taken it, they would not be put in a position where they would have to, you know, not attend something that happened to their sibling, you know? If they needed to take leave off to visit them while they're sick, or, you know, God forbid, if they died, they don't want to have to worry about that. So they'd rather keep the word sibling there, even if it means less paid leave on the back end.
So that's, keep in mind, those are 2 different provisions in the current proposal, though.
Yes, but both of them are based off the definition of immediate family.
Well, no, but the bereavement provision is separate from the paid leave provision.
Yeah, well, paid leave and bereavement for in either of the situations, they're both based off the definition of immediate family, so they would be not able to,
Gotcha.
you know, use either of those in the case of a sibling.
All right, fair enough.
I think we just have one more for you here. Okay, this is Article 7. Obviously, this is one we've been through a lot.
Mhm.
And I'll be quite honest with you, Hannah's been taking the lead on getting a lot of this language right. So Hannah, if you want to lead the discussion on this, that'd be perfect.
Sure, can you hear me?
Mhm.
Okay. Sorry, if someone wouldn't mind typing for me, that would be great. There are only a couple minimal changes in our eyes, based on the definition that you brought us last time. We really do appreciate that you brought something to us. If you look at 7.1, we have once again removed the average of 10 hours per week, 20 hours per week. We've made that position very clear as to why we've done it. That has nothing to do with the definition of excess workload. If anyone in the room wants to let me know, should I reiterate why we do not want average in 7.1, or has that been made pretty clear for everybody?
I think we've discussed that. I know.
Okay, so just so you know, that is back in this one. There's been no changes to the beginning of 7.2, but you'll notice in the new definition of excess workload you brought, we have changed it to all graduate assistants as opposed to just research assistants, which is how you brought it last time. And we said that excess workload is now defined as assignment of employment responsibilities which exceed their contracted hours based on the FTE of their appointment. We've removed explicit and average. Those are 2 words that we think might get kind of muddied in all of this. And again, in reiterating our position a little bit from 7.1, we think that being explicitly assigned or pressured to work in excess of their average contracted hours isn't necessarily what we're looking for. If you're being pressured to work 30 hours a week and you're being paid for 20 hours a week, we think that's excessive workload. And again, we've expanded it out for all GAs as opposed to just RAs. Sorry, was someone going to say something?
No,
Okay.
you're good.
Sorry, I thought I heard a little mumble. The only other changes I think you'll see in 7.2B right there, I changed employees to graduate assistants just because it was like redundant. But if you go through the rest of the article, there shouldn't be any other changes in there. It's really just the stuff at the top.
I ask a hypothetical, I know we've kind of tread over this ground before, but I just kind of want to get your position on one thing. Would you mind scrolling back up, Austin?
Yeah.
To 4. So in the context of a teaching assistant, right? And obviously I don't spend time teaching in UWP, but that's one of the ones that kind of comes up. Let's say that I am currently a teaching assistant in UWP and I have a week in which there are no assignments due. And then there's another week in which there's no assignments due. So I'm going and running class, but I don't have anything sort of on my docket to grade, so to speak. And then in that third week, I have 22 essays that come in.
Mhm.
Has there been any thought, not that you have to, but has there been any thought to what the implications would be in situations when, for that particular type of assignment in which it's largely like project-based or largely sort of summative assessment-based, what for then the smoothing of that work without an averaging? I mean, again, you don't have to answer. I'm just wondering if you'd sort of contemplated that type of assignment.
Yeah, we've discussed stuff like that before. I mean, we've discussed a lot of different ways that these things could be interpreted and how they could change how different grads interfere. And Hannah, if I missed something, feel free to fix me. I'm gonna try to say where we're at. We are concerned is for what is legally allowed for GAs. And primarily when we think of that, we think of international GAs who are legally not allowed to work more than 20 hours a week. And that's not 20 hours on average. Their visa is they cannot work more than 20 hours a week at any given point in time. So to add stipulations that allow for international GAs to work in excess of what they're legally allowed to do on the back half, that they work less on later weeks or work less and then work more later. But we're just not interested in that continuing for GAs. We want to make sure that international students know what is required of them. And we want to make sure that they are in no way for 0 weeks of the semester told that they should work more than 20 hours a week.
So
They're limited to 20 hours a week and on 0.5 FTE.
I appreciate that. And I don't want to put words in your mouth. So I'm gonna repeat what I think I heard you say, but correct me.
Mhm.
UF should restructure the coursework. And here's how I arrived at the conclusion.
Okay.
If the official position is averaging is a non-starter for us, which is what I'm hearing you say, for the reasons that I'm not going to repeat, but you laid them out, and I
Yeah.
think you did a good job of explaining the logic. If the course is currently designed in such a way that the averaging would be the way in which we arrive at the hours of FTE, and it's a non-starter for there to be an averaging, what other method would we have besides redesigning the course, either staggering deadlines based on UFID or changing the structure of the course? There were smaller assignments every week. Again, you don't have to answer. I'm just trying to think about practically, right? If we were to consider that, how would we then, how do we wrestle with that?
That's a management decision, Mike. I mean, like, if you need to do what you need to do, right? So if like the course is not in compliance with the contract, if you're making people work more than 20 hours, then yeah,
So restructure the coursework.
it's not our decision. Like you have
Okay.
to, that's on your side, like it's not, like, yeah, what we're concerned with is with how many hours that we have. That's what's on the table.
Yeah. Shannon,
Okay.
what do you have to add?
Fair enough.
Can I talk for a second?
Of
Please.
course.
Okay, there's two things I want to say about this. For your hypothetical, Patrick, one response that I would have is that any supervisor who has a course that's requiring a TA to work over 20 hours in 1 week can just distribute the work into the next week, right? So like if I get 100 essays that I need to grade, and it's gonna take me more than 20 hours, it can just be, okay, well, you can just work and you can grade the 30 essays that you can do in 20 hours, which is probably an exaggeration. And then you can grade the rest of them next week. Like, it doesn't have to be the entire course is restructured. It just needs to be that supervisors are coordinating with GAs so that they are not actually overworking.
Got it.
And I hope that answers that specific question. And I had something else to say, which is now slipping my mind.
Also, previously, we used to have this provision about clarification of FTE, and the purpose of that was also to understand how did the person arrive at the calculation for FTE? Saying like, okay, this is enough for 20 hours for a graduate assistant. I mean, we don't have that anymore in this.
No, that's a
But that was-
concession we
I
made,
mean,
but
that was also to try and understand, like, why is it that this is such an issue?
yeah, and allow GAs the opportunity to say, I know I'm expected to do this amount for, this task for X hours a week. I know next week is gonna be, a big week because I have a projects due. I can talk to my supervisor and say, let's adjust it for next week, and so I know what is required of me next week. Is it a requirement that everything is graded within a single day, and that would take me 20 hours? I can't do that.
Right.
But they know what their limitations are and have those discussions. So they don't ever have to have a week where they're saying, this is a busy week, I have to work 30 to 40 hours, and I hope I work less next week. Hannah, what's up?
I remembered the second thing I wanted to say, which is something that we've already said before. And it's simply that having this provision in our contract does not force anyone to grieve over excess workload. And we know that based on the way that it works to be a GA in research, in teaching, that a lot of people will probably not go this route. But we want to have it in there for the cases where it's really important and someone wants to bring this as a grievance. We're not forcing anyone to do anything. It's just in there for the protection of people who really need it.
Do you have any questions on this one, Tom?
No, I was just interested in how it was contemplated for teaching as opposed to research, but I think that's what we just discussed.
Okay. Shane, Judy, Robert, questions on this?
No. No.
Okay.
Those are all of the articles we have.
Okay.
Before you didn't have any others?
No.
So before we go, UF side, has like a note taker, right? Like a meeting notes person.
No, we're using the video recordings.
You're not taking notes of them.
No, we're using the video recording.
Previously, we used to have.
We did used to have it when before they moved me from the provost office over to the HR department. We normally had somebody, and that normally they'd kind of be here. Yeah.
Okay, I think that no further questions. I think we're
Okay.
good.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then for the people in Zoom, we will be moving to debriefing